Good evening, everyone. It's Kayla, and welcome to another episode of Kayla Unfiltered, the housing call-in show. Tonight, we're diving into two stories that are perfectly exposing why Ontario's rental system is collapsing for small landlords. And let's be clear, these aren't just bad tenant stories. These are system failures that affect every homeowner, every landlord, and every future buyer in this province. First, a couple of who bought a home, started their family, only to learn because of Section 56, a section most people have never heard of, they legally cannot move into their home they own. They did everything right, followed every rule, put their life savings on the line, and still lost the right to live in their own property. Then we have Rachel, a single parent who endured months of unpaid rent, severe property damage, 7 animals in the home, and an assault inside her own home, all while tenants repeatedly this pattern with multiple landlords before her. She was barred from her own property while they lived rent-free. And yes, this actually happens in Ontario. Tonight, we're not just telling stories, we're breaking down how the system protects repeat offenders and why families like these are left paying the price. We're also diving into Bill 60, what it really means, how it could restore fairness for landlords, and why it's critical for holding tenants accountable without punishing good tenants. So settle in, drop your questions in the chat, share this live, and tag someone who needs to hear this, because tonight we're shining a bright spotlight on what's really happening in Ontario's housing system and what it needs to change. Let's get into it. Well, oh my God, guys, it's been crazy. It's been a crazy couple of days. Like I've been a little dormant on my podcast because I've been taking part in other people's podcasts, which thank you to everyone. Obviously, if anyone want to watch any of the the last future podcasts that I did, you can check them out on the Ontario Landlords Watch channel. So let's get into it. So everyone knows Bill 60 had came about. This is something that obviously is very upsetting to the tenants. It's very upsetting to 130 organizations that are sending a letter to the province stating that they do not approve of Bill 60, which is holding tenants accountable, by the way. And then we have the tenant unions who are obviously very upset. You can see through this article that I posted in Toronto today. It's gone viral. And thank you, everyone who has shared this because you believe in the same thing that I wrote. And to the haters who are sharing the message. Thank you, guys. You're actually helping the landlord and property management and taxpayers' voices come out into the public. So thank you even to the haters. So I wanted to be able to bring a few ideas to you guys tonight. Regarding Bill 60. But I also want you to see what kind of behavior these tenants are actually causing in our industry. So if most of you don't know, we have the Federation of Rental Housing Providers Ontario. They are a big advocacy group for landlords, mostly big. I'm a lot of the small ones. But they did have a situation that happened in their office. And it's shocking to see how that's acceptable. And I wanted to make sure that our elected officials and media know how hostile some of these landlords, some of these tenants are towards their landlords. So before we have some time, like bear with me, because this is a landlord association advocating for rights of tenants as well. Like I do see what they advocate for. They were in their office and they got bombarded by tenants just because they stood next to Rob Flack through the announcement regarding Bill 60. So without further ado, and before we do, I want everyone to get a chance while they're watching to jump over to YouTube if you want to have some comments. I know sometimes with Facebook, we don't see everything until after. So if you're looking at trying to engage with us tonight, please jump over to the YouTube channel, Ontario Landlords Watch. So without further ado, I would like to present to you what our friends at FROPO have to endure just because they promote Bill 60, which is holding the bad tenants accountable, and of course, our good tenants paying the price.
Tony Irwin?
Yeah, he's just busy right now. Sorry, guys. Do you mind just leaving outside?
No. Sorry, no. Yeah, that's Tony Irwin. Guys, that's Tony Irwin. Let's go. Hey.
Yeah.
Hi, Tony. We're a group of renters here. Can you please step outside? We want to have an interview with you. Has anyone told you you look like Gavin Weston? You're creating an evictions pipeline from the LTV to the encampment. You, with your crony Doug Ford, are passing this bill at record pace. Like, all consultations have been waived off. Why should we work at your schedule?
And our demands are that you rescind Bill 60.
You're a busy man. Let's just finish it here and then go.
Why? You're laughing in the face of tenants across Ontario? No. Somebody get that on record.
I understand. I think it's important mutual respect.
Tenants already have minuscule protections. So you tell me how this bill is respectful by your standards of respect. Please speak.
Extremely rude behavior.
It's evicting families with children on the way. How is that appropriate behavior?
Right? Is it going to be the seniors who you kick out, or is it going to be the ODSP people? What will give you the most profits? I'm sure you have analysts on this.
One of your board members who represents Pine Ridge, they just tried to evict someone for being 98 cents behind on their rent.
Yes.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
What are you aware of?
Well,
Do you know the homeless stats? Well, it's doubled since 2022.
So you're advocating for more evictions and you don't know the homeless stats?
I'm advocating for a fair system.
No, you're advocating for evictions.
Not fair, and you're making it less fair.
What do you think will happen if you create a tenant blacklist? Do you think they will end up in encampments, or do you think they will magically find a home somehow?
I respect people's rights to have different views. I think it's important in our democracy to have that. You have your opinions, your positions. I have mine.
how is
That's
it a
how
democracy when you influence the government so heavily?
How is it a democracy if all consultations get waived off?
We have to get back to business here. We have a.
No, business, where you evict people, is not business for us. It is a direct threat to our communities, to our homes. That is not business for us. It's very personal. Kill Bill 60! Kill Bill 60! Power! Power! Power!
As you can see, guys, this is something where they came into his office unannounced. They're hating on him because he promotes Bill 60 for holding the tenants accountable. There's nothing in Bill 60 that is going to impact any of our good tenants who are making their payments, not destroying other people's properties. And they try to say that they're big influential to the government, but the government is heavily, they're almost hijacked by these organizations, 130 organizations who are sending a letter to our government trying to get them to back away from Bill 60 that provides some protection to our landlords. We have had 15 years of a bill that is protecting tenants over and over and over again. This is the first bill I have ever seen through my advocacy efforts that actually try to stop these loopholes, that actually try to protect the landlords against tenants who know every single loophole within the system. But unfortunately, we are not being heard because we're not being as rude as these individuals who are coming in there demanding that they should rescind Bill 60, like Fropo actually has a say in this. These are your elected officials, and I want our elected officials to see what kind of people that they're representing and who they try to support. And what's even shocking, guys, what's even shocking is that we have Olivia Chow, the mayor of Toronto, and we have the Council of Hamilton trying to use their municipal influence and trying to get our government to back away from Bill 60 again. And for many of you that don't know about Bill 60, is like, yes, there was a section about a lease expiry, and we will have our debate regarding if that was good or not. I think it was just about a consulting, and that was what's very unsettling, is knowing that they backtracked after 4 days on just consulting. But when you're able to file at the Landlord and Tenant Board with just 7 days, the tenants still have their ability to go to the Landlord and Tenant Board. They still have to wait for the hearing, and they still have to wait for the order, and they still have to wait for the sheriff to make their payments. And let's be clear, our government has offered programs upon programs to help tenants with rent relief. They have assistance to tenants for free legal aid at the Landlord and Tenant Board. They have the right to stay in their unit as long as they want, move in whoever they want. And you and I both know there's loopholes for tenants who refuse to commit rent theft. And that's what we have to call it. It's rent theft. And that is what we have to be louder as landlords. And I know it's very shocking that, you want to come out and you want to say this, because I can tell you right now, when you are outspoken and you're supporting Bill 60 and you're trying to call out the bullshit that these tenants are doing, this is what you would get. This is my phone this morning. I've been doing this for 15 years. Take a look. These are phone calls one after another, 3 times in 1 minute from a non-known name caller, because I support Bill 60. The first call that I actually, when I first picked up and said, Kayla speaking, they said, the tenants hate you. That's what we get because we are housing providers of Ontario. We are providing housing to people in need. We are providing the housing that our province, our taxpayers are struggling to provide. So why are we having to deal with this type of abuse with no consequences to tenants? So I'm going to leave it at that just because I want to be able to just to give you guys a shout out regarding Bill 60. Please support it. Contact your MPP. Contact your municipal government now because they think it's their jurisdiction to intervene in what the province is doing. And it's shocking, and understand that there is an election coming up in 2026. So when you see your municipal government getting involved in provincial affairs, put their name down in the group. I want to know who they are because we need to call them out for what they're doing because it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's political theater. If you see an elected official at the municipal level trying to make it look like they're doing something for the tenants and making it worse for them in the long run. So I'm going to keep it calm tonight because I've had a lot of interactions with everybody online, and I'm hoping that my members and anyone who's following me can come over there and give your thoughts, give your opinion, because we do have people watching, and I hope that they make more changes to the Residential Tenancies Act and the Landlord and Tenant Board, and I know we have many other opportunities to do so. So I want to open tonight with Bill 60, and again, shout out to Frobo. Sorry that you had to deal with this information from this abuse from the tenant, and I'm sorry I had to share the information with what just happened, but I think people need to see that. So, okay. So I brought some guests with you tonight. Someone who is obviously the reason why Bill 60 is going to exist. And it's going to exist because we have landlords, private small housing providers in Ontario who are struggling because of the broken RTA, because of the Landlord and Tenant Board, and because of professional tenants that just know the system, they know the loopholes. And I can tell you, they are getting craftier, very, very craftier, because next Friday we have another show. So Rachel, thanks so much for coming on. And we got Michael down there in the story. He's like our bombshell, guys. Don't leave me yet.
Thanks for having us.
But Rachel, I'm like, I've literally, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I've got to see your pictures, what you sent to me, and your story of what you had to endure. Please share how did you get into landlording? Why did you want to get into landlording?
When I first got into landlording, I thought it was going to be a big investment plan. I'd have a little money on the side. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. I wanted to have a home for my son when he gets older. Obviously, there's rising costs in Ontario, and with inflation, young people just aren't able to buy. So that was the initial plan 5 years ago. Moving forward, I had 4 years of wonderful tenants. I couldn't have a single complaint for either couple. They were wonderful.
Shout out to the good tenants out there, guys.
That's right. Props. Unfortunately, in November of this year, I got new tenants. I did the research, so I thought. I called their references, I looked online. I couldn't find anything on them. Things quickly unfolded. The red flags started. And the first red flag actually was in the very first day. I greeted the child. There's 3 children with the couple and the child. And I said to her, are you excited to go to a school? You're in a new town, new house. And she looked at me very sadly and she said, I'm just tired of moving around. And at that moment, I knew, that's a huge red flag. You like to see the good in people. And I really tried to see good in these people. Unfortunately, it just went downhill from there. Moving forward, they paid rent until June of this year. They were late several times. I was getting $200 payments, $500 payments here and there. There were excuses, the father was dying. the aunt had died. Just multiple different stories and different angles of why the money wasn't coming, that sort of thing. And I had to reach out to them. They, when it was time for rent to be paid, they never come to me to say, hey, we're going to be late. It was like I was chasing for my money for the place that I pay for. So it ended up that obviously my last option was to evict. I went into the house to do an inspection. The house smelled very badly of urine, like to the point where I didn't know whether I was going to, be able to not gag or puke. There were 7 dogs in the home when there was only supposed to be 1 dog. You could tell the dogs have been urinating all over the house. The baseboards were swelled, chewed, scratched. New cupboards were scratched. The flooring was all lifted in
Were they
spots.
breeding? Were they breeding the dogs?
I think they are. Yeah, I do. I think they are. They had
Maybe not
4.
breeding, still not paying rent.
Yeah. And they both work. And they have 3 kids. So,
And this is something I told Rachel on the phone. I said, are those dogs licensed with their city?
Yeah.
This is something that we want to make sure that, as landlords, we need to make sure that the dogs are licensed and there's a limit.
Mm-hmm.
So check with your city, guys, if
Yeah.
you're in a situation.
Yeah, 7 dogs. So the house was just terrible. So I'd give them time to fix the situation, again, trying to see the good in people. Unfortunately, sometimes the good's just not there. And that's the hard lesson I've had to learn in dealing with this. So that whole phase went on with the inspection. Second inspection came. Again, I gave them extra time. All I had asked them to do was clean the floors and get the pet urine out. They weren't paying. I said nothing about rent. Again, just clean your floors. Plain and simple. Please clean your floors. And it's not safe.
You may have to
be-
replace the floors. I don't
They
even
do.
know what it sounds
Yeah.
like cleaning.
Yeah.
But
They
you were
do.
still being nice.
They do. So comes the end of July, we go for our second inspection. And during that time, there was rotting potatoes on the floor. The floors still hadn't been done. The house still smelled, that sort of thing. The husband was very rude upon entry for the inspection. And upon leaving for the inspection, I tried to hand him an N12 because prior I did a little deep digging and they have done this multiple times. They owe thousands in rent to people. They have ruined multiple homes. Multiple landlords have had to sell their homes. And I'm just the next victim.
And that's the thing, like it's not about even the unpaid rent, it's the damaged home. Like you can't even, and this is
disheartening.
And we get messages like on this article about, well, you could sell, like, no, at the point in time, we don't get rent. You're also having a damaged property that no one is going to buy, not only for the simple fact that there's a bad tenant in there, but because it's damaged.
Exactly. So there's now 15,000 in damages in the home. Again, I tried to serve him the N12. Upon leaving for the inspection, he slammed my arm in the door.
And then we got some pictures of this, guys. Like I really, so here's the bruise in her arm.
And that was actually a week later. So that was after a week.
Wow. And this item,
I had 2 knees that were swelled. I had to have an X-ray on the one knee and my arm. And
we got this one here.
Yeah, that was my elbow. That was my elbow where he had body slammed me. It lacerated my elbow.
And so what happened after like this damage came to you? Explain to people what happened when this happened to you.
So he slammed my arm in the door. I used my other arm, pushed the door open. Upon entering the home, the tenant picked me up, threw me over his shoulder, body slammed me onto the floor, attempted to choke me. My 13-year-old child was with me at the time, so he had to jump onto this person, grab them around their neck to try and get them off of me. I yelled for my son to call 911. At this point, I wasn't sure really what was transpiring. It all happened so quickly, and I surely was not expecting to be body slammed and choked by my tenant that day. So my son calls 911. The tenant starts screaming, intruders, intruders, intruders. There's intruders in my fucking house. So he's portraying to the operator that we're intruders. We don't have access to this home. It's not my home, that sort of thing.
Gaslighting the situation.
Yep. So the police came, they had a quick chat with my son and I. Obviously the cut was visible. Some of the bruises were now visible. The officers went and talked to the tenant. And at that point, they came back to me and told me I was under arrest for assault. And at that point, I immediately started crying, and I was dumbfounded, like flabbergasted, like to the point where I said, "Are you joking?" I thought she was joking. This man just manhandled me, body slammed me in front of my child.
You're a
My
tiny
child,
woman.
I'm 114 pounds. My child calls 911. The police come. I am arrested, handcuffed, no prior criminal record, thrown in the back of the car while my child cries along the side of the road because the police officer, had said that the entry camera has the proof, which was me being the aggressor and pushing on the door. However, there are 7 visible cameras inside the home, but unfortunately, one wasn't working and the other was at the wrong angle. So it didn't catch the body slam or the choking or anything that
So they have cameras. They have cameras inside of their home.
They have
as well?
7 cameras inside the home. Never in my life have I been in a home where
Were they
there
drug
isn't-
dealers?
I'm not sure what is happening. My guess at this point is they owe a lot of people money.
I put one camera in my kitchen. That was to find out
They have
which
7.
had messed up
They
my
have-
kitchen.
They have 7. They will freely tell you they have 7 cameras inside their house. She will tell
The
you they
one
have
that-
every inch. But unfortunately, it wasn't caught on camera. I call bullshit.
Oh,
The
yeah.
camera's pointed directly at the door. I call bullshit. I think personally the police didn't want to deal with it. End of the day, it was 35 degrees out on a Sunday. They wanted to go. This was an easy,
I want to pause you there, Rachel. I just want to remind everyone, if you're watching on Facebook right now, jump over to Ontario Landlords Watch YouTube. I want your thoughts on this. Put it, if you're watching live, if you're watching as a replay, I want you to put your thoughts regarding what she's telling us right now. Keep going.
I had begged and pleaded with the officer to go get the inside footage. As you know, I know, everybody knows that footage is there. But unfortunately, the officer didn't seem to care. When I was released, I actually had to ask the officer to take pictures of my lacerations and bruises because
You had to ask them.
I had to ask the female officer to take pictures, and she said, "Oh, I suppose I could." Okay. All right.
What is wrong? Like, we already know what's wrong with our police catch and release program that we have going on, but that is ridiculous.
So yeah, I was charged with assault. It cost me $14,000 for a lawyer to get a withdraw. And unfortunately, I had to agree to a peace bond because I truly do not have the funds to take it to trial because they've already drained me. I've been, I have a mortgage on that home. I work 2 jobs, but unfortunately.
And guys, I'm telling you right now, they're in the unit still, right?
They are still there. This process started in July, and they are still there as of today. We have a date with the LTB for a hearing the end of November, and my understanding is it'll still be until January before I can get these people out because they don't leave. It takes the sheriff to make them leave. They're the type of people that they make GoFundMe pages for rent to scam other people. In 2023, they had a GoFundMe page for rent. They made $3,900 from online donors for rent to yet scam another person. And I know that is factual because I've seen the online page, and one of the landlords actually connected with me and said, "Yep, that was the last one." And it just goes on down the line. And every year on her Facebook, she goes to it. They're looking for new rentals. So they're doing this every year. 2022, 2023, 2024. It's every year. It's the same thing. So they're paying rent for a couple months and then they're dropping it and staying in these rentals for up to a year and damaging them, not paying.
So
The last landlord is actually afraid of them. She's traumatized, just like I am from them.
We were trying to get her on tonight as well, and
She's very traumatized. The situation has been devastating all around. It's gutting. Like, it's gutted me completely to think that someone can stay in my property that I pay for, and I'm not allowed on the property after being assaulted in front of my child.
And
sorry I had to go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not done. Like, she's not even
not
done
done
with this. But
I'm
you know what?
Still not done.
We can, though, make sure that they don't do it again. Right. And that's why Rachel's here. That's why Rachel's sharing her story. This is why, after speaking with Rachel and meeting with her and hearing what's going on, I've given her the code for front lobby. This is where she's going to report the unpaid rent and the unpaid utilities. You can't do damages unless you have an order, but you do not need the tenant's consent, and you do not need a landlord and tenant board order to report these tenants on paid rent. They talk about, you've seen that video with Fropo. They were like, oh, you're gonna, like, who you're gonna report. Like, yes, if you are being abusive to the system, you need to be reported. There needs to be consequences, because as you can see, look at what they did to Rachel. Like, it's not only the fact that she damaged her home, cost her money in damaging their home. She also had a situation where she's lost out on rent, and she had to lose out on $14,000 to defend her honor, in which was dropped, but still impacting her till this day.
Mentally and physically, both. It has drained me completely, financially, mentally. Like, I make it make sense. It's one of those things that I've went over the scenario thousands of times and make it make sense. How does this person get away with something? And
you know what? The sad thing is, and this is why we're promoting Bill 6. This is why we're blessing Bill 6, and we're blessing the new Minister of Housing for it, is because there's still loopholes that this individual has.
They know every single loophole they can possibly find. They know it. They will tell you. And the tenant actually said straight to my face, "Good luck getting us out."
Wow.
There's absolutely no shame. And after this, I'm sure I'll get threats from them. There's no shame with them at all.
We're not sharing any of their personal information, but you do have a right, honey, to tell your story. And that's why I'm glad to kickstart this channel, to make sure that I can hear many other stories that are going on in our industry. Because when I speak with elected officials and we tell them what's happening, they always want to know, do you have stories? Do you have stories? Yeah, I got a story. Like, do you not see the news? Like, do you see article after article of the landlords being abused? Do you see you always look at the bad faith landlords, but where are the bad faith evictions? Where is that out there? Where you want to keep putting taxpayers responsible for building, managing, maintaining, and subsidizing government housing? Or do you want to work with a private investor who's not looking for a handout from government and not looking for a handout from the taxpayers? But what we do ask for is accountability and transparency. And this is why I'm excited for Bill 60, because it is starting to work into the orders, like not just non-payment, because right now Front Lobby can do non-payment of rent and utilities. We want to see other orders. We want to see the type of behavior that these tenants are getting away with, and unfortunately becoming another problem for another landlord. So please check out frontlobby.com, making sure that you're reporting your tenants' unpaid utility bills, because people need to understand that they need to be held accountable. And this is a business. It's not a charity. So before you guys come at us and be like, oh, it's a human right. Listen, you are getting shelter that's provided to you from your government. They will always have shelter. They will pay you to go into a motel. It costs taxpayers approximately $3,000 a month to house one person. But there is assistance out there for them. You can't expect the private housing provider to be a social agency for the government without any type of compensation. Put that for what it's worth. Now, Rachel, where do you see yourself going now after you've been dealing with this, and what changes do you want the government to make in order for them to not make this happen again for people like you?
I think it's important that the government looks at wait times for the LTB. People or landlords shouldn't be waiting months to get people evicted. If you're not paying rent, you shouldn't be able to stay in the home for months on my dime. I'm working 2 jobs to pay for that house because they're not paying. I mean, yes, I had some funds saved, but unfortunately, those deplete very quickly when you have $14,000 lawyer bills to pay, right? So I think, yeah, it's important that we get those wait times. We lessen those wait times.
And my tip for us, dealing with the wait times, it's not just about hiring more adjudicators as some of our tenants think is going to be the solution. This is about understanding that you don't need 3 hours to talk about why a tenant doesn't pay rent. Okay.
Exactly.
Point blank. You let storytelling time happen more time than a kid's cartoon. Let's be real. Our government wants to give them every benefit of the doubt. They want them to have their cases heard, but with the portal and uploading evidence, you have your time to shine. You don't need anything. You should have 10 minutes of why you couldn't pay your rent. When you know that there's rent relief programs to help you, there's the portable housing benefit. You're suited up with a legal aid that landlords have to pay for. Don't tell me that Bill 60 is removing any tenant rights. If it's anything, it just erodes more of the landlord's rights if our government tries to step back and try to water it down even more, because they feel that they've been bullied by tenant unions and from all of these 130 organizations that profit from this crisis. Sorry, I get so passionate about this, Rachel.
It's great.
I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been a landlord for 24 years.
Great.
I come from a family of tenants. I know what it's like to be eating craft dinner, not going to concerts with your friends, not bringing the nicest clothes. I have that life. So when I'm giving you my opinion to what needs to change, we have to stop the bleed, and we have to make sure that our taxpayers, AKA landlords as well, aren't paying the price for just a mismanagement of government. And we have to let our taxpayers know, because of what's happening, their money is being wasted as well, because we have a tribunal that is not running efficiently.
Yeah, the eviction times need to be shortened too. The tenant actually thanked me for giving them the eviction order so that they could go get emergency assistance funding, and so that they could have something to take to the community churches to get money. And I have it in writing. So it's all a game to them. They're professional scamming tenants. It's what they do. They're just leaving people, everyday people like me in their tracks.
As you can see through the emoji faces that I do see, I don't know if they're coming from the comments, but obviously our little friends from the tenants are starting to come on, which is great. I feel like I'm actually doing my job now that they're like, hey, let's go see what Kayla's talking about. So I'll heart to the haters.
You've shaken a few bird cages.
Right? Rachel, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And I'm obviously
thank you for having me.
So tune into what Michael has to share with us now, because I want your opinion as well, and everyone else who's watching live or on the recording. So make sure you put your thoughts below. Michael, how are you, bud?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I can hear you chicken it up there because you're just as shocked as Rachel's stories as I am. So
yeah, no words. Like Jordan Kiltz mentioned, that's an unbelievable story, and again, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. My situation, I don't know if you could call it worse or it's just different, but we wind up and find ourselves in a similar position, right? If you want, I can go into the full story. I don't think I've shared this story too many times. Honestly, it's something I've kept pretty close to the vest in
I know it's
about,
hard.
right?
You feel like you don't want to come out and talk about it. Like you're gonna get the wrath like we're all receiving right now, but you got to.
Yeah. It's not even that. It's more like embarrassing. I feel like, but basically, at the point in time that my wife and I bought a property, it had an existing tenant in it. The reason we were looking to buy this property is that we were aiming to downsize into something that we could have either normal mortgage or little mortgage on. We had purchased a property in 2020. We had to, extend ourselves for it. It was easier at that time. Interest rates were lower. I am self-employed, so income has been down with this current market. So I was just trying to forecast the future, what the real estate market, right? Trying to plan. We're trying to start a family. So we talked and said, okay, I think this is the best move if we can alleviate this massive mortgage. Like, it was several $100,000. It was a big mortgage. Interest rates had increased, between, I think it was over a 6 month span in 2022, which we were on variable rate mortgage. So our mortgage interest shot up through the roof, like so many other landlords are facing, right?
How mortgages and stuff work
Yeah.
for our tenants, because I think that they pay our mortgage.
Right. So, we were trying to do some family planning, and this seemed like the logical decision is to buy something smaller and make it work for us to be able to start a family, not have to stress about finances, which a lot of people these days are. So this at that point in time, that was March of 2024, and I don't know if you remember what the real estate market looked like back then, but it was very different from what the market looks like today. Not necessarily from a cost perspective, although they've since dropped, but more so from a housing stock perspective, because there was not a lot of inventory online at that time.
Yeah.
The thought in that spring market is that the Bank of Canada would lower interest rates. They didn't. And so everyone was kind of waiting on the sidelines. They didn't start until June of that year. So we understood that there was a tenant in this property. We were willing to take on that risk, knowing that we were going to be issuing an N12 for personal use. That was the plan. That's what we communicated to our real estate agent, to our lawyer. But we had a house at that time. So we were willing to get something that fit our needs, was in the right neighborhood, had amenities around it that we were looking for, as a mature neighborhood.
Yep.
And so we pulled the trigger on it. And I know there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks that are going to say, well, why wasn't why didn't you put in a condition that the tenant should be removed? Right. And hindsight's 2020. But like I said, the real estate market was at a very different position, right, as far as inventory compared to what it is now, which there's plenty of inventory. So we purchased the property. We thought everything was fine. We went to serve our tenant the N12 notice. She came back at us and referenced this section 56 of the Residential Tenancies Act, saying that she couldn't be evicted, and that we couldn't go and move into the property. And so we did our research. We contacted the city in which the house is, to kind of get more information about past history of the property. We contacted several paralegals, right, to get and even a former LTB adjudicator, to try to get more information about what is our tenant even talking about, because we're not landlords. We're not experienced. I don't have any investment properties. I am forced to have one now that I don't want.
You're forced
right?
fed landlord.
Yeah.
Forced fed landlord, guys. So I'll put the section in the notes here, based on Google's AI overview regarding section 56 of the RTA. So I'm gonna put that in there for reference for everybody, because I think we see that happening where there is properties being severed. We probably have properties that are still in this. So let's put that out there for everybody to see there. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So it's I read that it's one sentence. It's one sentence of the Residential Tenancies Act. It's 61 words long. I've read it. I don't know how many times. I don't know how many tears have been spilled over this.
You probably know it off the top of your head.
Yeah, I don't know it word for word, but I know basically that we can't evict the tenant for personal use because the property became separately conveyable when the previous owner, as we came to learn, had severed the property. So with the tenant in it. So that's essentially giving the tenant, the section 56, security of tenure, meaning
immunity
immunity
over an N12,
meaning that no owner, whether it's us or 10 owners down the line, which I don't think we'll ever be able to sell this thing, because what person would want to purchase it knowing that they can't evict with wanting to move into it, could ever do that.
Guys,
right?
I literally I talked to him, like, people are messaging me like, hey, you got to have this guy on your show, like, this is what's happening. I was like, so we now have a forced landlord, and then he doesn't want to be a landlord, but he can't even sell it because you have to disclose this information. And like, are you trying to go back on like the previous owner because they never disclosed this information to you?
Yeah, so that that's a good point. So they never disclosed it to us. We came to learn after the fact, obviously. We tried to do it the right way. We served the notice at the advice of our paralegal to go through the process, to go to a hearing, which was held on May 6th of this year. And interestingly, going back to what your story was, so we filed that at the end of December of last year, or near the end of December. So it took almost 6 months to get that hearing. Then we had to sit in the block. This is my first experience ever with the LTB and like shaking from the nerves, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Never been through it before. And it's just me. My wife has to sit off to the side because you're only supposed to have one person like present, or she would have to log in from somewhere else. So it didn't work out. Anyways, so
they didn't want you sitting there together.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
and
new.
so she yeah. So we had to go through that hearing. It was in our block. It was the afternoon block. And, of course, right before us, there was some tenant that was giving their story. Their landlord was wanting to evict them. I can't remember what the reasoning, if it was a N13 that they were serving or something else. Anyways, the tenant was giving their spiel about what they could afford. And then the adjudicator was going through the list. Okay, so what's your expenses for every month? And that dragged on that whole conversation for over an hour. And so we ran out of time.
You were budgeting for the tenant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was sitting back listening to this, knowing that
this you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, knowing that if we run out of time, then the hearing's going to be it's adjourned, and we'll have to wait for another time. God knows how long that was going to take.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. So we ran out of time. They had to end the hearing, and so we had to pick it up. Fortunately, it was only a month later that we had to do it. Interestingly, it was the 1-year anniversary from when we took possession of the property that our hearing was. We already knew going in that the likelihood of us being successful based on the interim hearing, interim order that we received was unlikely. But nevertheless, we went to it anyways because we needed to get that formal order from the LTB basically saying that you, the homeowner, don't have the right to live in your own property because of something that the seller did that you knew nothing about. But because it's there in section 56, those 61 words, one sentence, that's it. Case closed. And it's like everyone that we tell this story to, which for the most part has been just our inner circle. Now that I have the formal order,
it's not that no more.
Yeah, now that I received the formal order, which took 4 months because I didn't get it until end of September.
So 4 months from your hearing, you got this order?
Yeah, right. So June, July, August, September. Yep. Yeah, 4 months. So now that I actually have that piece of paper that says you've lost, and here's the reason that you've lost, now I have something to actually stand on. So if I want to go back and sue, litigate the parties that were involved in the sale, whether it be the seller, the lawyers, the real estate agents, like I don't have an endless supply of capital, and lawyers are expensive. So is it even worth going through the time commitment and the financial commitment to litigate at this point? I don't know. I'm having those discussions we're trying to have discussions with lawyers. But it seems like everyone that we reach out to bring this up, like I've contacted the media, I haven't gotten responses back. I've emailed our public officials, haven't gotten responses back. It's like, well, that's an unfortunate situation. Good luck with that.
That's sad.
Isn't it? Like
That's very sad.
How much did you spend? Like, how much did you pay for this house?
$513.
And you can't even use it.
Yeah. So
that's disgusting.
We had to sell our house that we were living in because it was in good faith. We were planning to sell anyways, obviously. But because we lost and we have nowhere to go, so now we're living with my wife's mother. So, not ideal circumstances, but fortunately she took us in. But I don't understand, and neither does anyone I tell this story to, how that can even be a thing. Like,
it shouldn't be. The laws need to change all around.
Everyone who's watching, everyone who's going to watch it live, please, for the sake of Michael's sake and his family, please share this with your elected official. Share this video with the elected officials to let them know what's really happening here in Ontario. We may not have a newsletter yet. We may not be able to get the attention from all the news broadcasters to tell this story, but I'm telling the story here for you to share this because this is not right. This is an RTA that's completely outdated, that needs to be changed. Let's advocate to change Section 56 so that Michael can regain access back to his home that he bought, that he pays taxes for, that he has to maintain, that he put everything on the line, his credit. All the risks are based on what this man had to work hard for someone else to take over like it's their own. And at the same time, we're dealing with rent control, 2.1% for 2026, not even keeping up with the inflational rate of what landlords are having to cover. We're not able to subsidize. Nonprofit housing providers are also reaching out that they are at their brinks because of different municipal bylaws, because of the way the RTA is. You fed a system that where tenants are able to know that they can abuse, and that information is sharing, especially with media, especially with TikToks, and everyone thinks that they need to fight for their right. It's not about rights. This is about what's right for everyone. It's not just individual. They always want to make it look like it's a landlord versus tenant battle. It's not. It's literally to the government for introducing policies and bylaws that impact the ability to get the supply out there for some of these tenants who actually need it. And everyone thinks that tenants are going to be homeowners. Not every tenant can be a homeowner. They do not have a good job. They don't have the down payment, and they don't have the credit. Landlords like Michael, like Rachel, are the people who are out there putting everything on the line to make sure that there is housing available to people who can't buy themselves and can't wait 10 to 20 years to be on the government housing waiting list. It breaks my heart to hear both of your stories here tonight. And I want to thank you, and the community thanks you for bringing this to their attention and to bringing up these red flags so we can prepare every landlord to step up their screening or get out of Ontario. And that's why Bill 60 needs to pass. I want to thank you both. If you have one saying, one tip, one thing for the elected officials, one thing for the landlord, whatever the case may be, what would be someone to remember you by?
I don't think you want to hear what I have to say.
Say it, baby. There's nothing off the table on this show.
I'm very raw. So, I mean, if you want to live like a homeless person and live for free and live on the streets and not clean your home, things like that, then you need to go do so. Because, you know, people like myself or like Michael or like yourself shouldn't have to pay rent for somebody else who wants to live like a homeless person.
We're not a charity. You know, we're not a charity.
It's sad to have to be that way because, again, I try to see the good in everyone, and I've tried for months to see the good in these people. Unfortunately, it's not there. So,
and it's sad that we become different people. We become different people when you be treated like this. And it's sad because deep down, like, we do have a lot of services that are out there getting grants from the government to address the homelessness. But it's also the policies. It's about where your money is. Where's the accountability to see if these organizations are actually doing the job and the money is well spent? And I'm going to be looking into that. I can promise you that I will be looking into these 130 organizations to see, are they worth it? And how many duplicate of services do we have? But Rachel, thank you so much. Michael, what do you have for the audience?
You win, Michael. Yeah. You win.
I know. Like, I'm ready to like anyone. Maybe you have to do a GoFundMe page to buy Michael a new house since it's.
Right. You know, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it works for the tenants. So, Michael, let's try it out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get into my what I do, but I mentioned earlier that I am self-employed. So I am a housing provider because my background is in architectural technology. So I'm an architectural designer. I'm a construction manager. So I build homes for people to live in. And the fact that I don't have one to live in because I can't evict the tenant is like some sort of sick joke. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And this entitlement mentality, this victimhood mentality that tenants have, I mean, I don't care, and neither should our politicians, to be honest with you, because for too long, the loud minority seems to be getting their way, and the silent majority is taking a back seat to our elected officials, and we need that silent majority to get loud in order for there to be change, right? Bill 60 is a good step forward, but I would remind everyone that our current conservative provincial government has been in power with a majority for almost 7.5 years, and we're only seeing something like this now. Why is that? Because I can tell you from my limited experience at the landlord tenant board and reading some of the orders, because there is no case law other than one that has come up, and aside from mine, related to Section 56. But like it's we got to get loud, and we have to make change, because for the fact that people are pushing back on Bill 60, I've seen it firsthand at the landlord tenant board, reading those orders, the bias in the system, the favoritism to prioritize the tenant's well-being over the landlord who's taking the risk in providing housing supply is wrong.
No, you've had it like right on the nose there. And you know what? I think if you look at why they're taking this long, is because it's not just this industry that's suffering, just because you have such different voices, even at the provincial level. And sometimes those people hold things back. Just like every Reid, every elected official out there, like Olivia Chow and Kristen Wan Tang, who is coming out and, in support of tenants. And we have Hamilton now telling the tenants to stand up for your rights. Our municipal government has picked a side of tenants because they know there's a lot of tenants, and they're just hoping and praying for those votes. When our provincial government step in and say, one, we have to stop this political theater that's happening at the municipal level, because they know a 2026 election is happening. And this is why every city in Ontario is going to have these headlines of water billing, landlord licensing. We're going to have rent eviction bylaws, and we're going to have vacancy tax, knowing that the market has softened, knowing that landlords have units that are empty. And I can tell you it's slowed down quite a bit since they put the cap on international students. They introduce a vacancy tax. Like, this is an attack on all fronts. And this is why we're going to see less housing supply. This is why we're going to see very strict tenant screening processes right across the board. This is why we're going to tell every landlord, every property manager that it's so important more than ever to report your tenants' unpaid rent and unpaid utilities to the credit bureau, because we need to start relying on our products and our services to help us. And I want to make sure we do a shout out for the Hamilton District Apartment Association. They will be at their Hamilton Council on December 2nd at 9:30 a.m. This is Acorn City, guys. Like, they plan to try to have their voices heard. I know it's 9:30 in the morning. Landlords do work, because the tenants think that landlords don't work, because I don't know where they get that. But landlords are working. But hey, council at 9:30 to discuss landlord licensing citywide, because right now it's very directed into certain wards where students are, which they are discriminating against students. They put landlord licensing, and honestly, I just was at their event speaking, and we're hearing that it costs $2 million to run this program, and they are now short 1.7 million. in order to run this program. So they're not even gaining the revenue to do it, but they want to do it citywide because you know what? That looks good in headlights. Looks good for the tenants to make it look like they're doing something. And instead, you're taking money away from the homeowner to put that into their rental unit, to put that into another property that government or taxpayers don't have to pay for. So December 2nd, register as a delegate. And if you can't make it in person, because I know it's 9:30, write the council, and you need to fight it as Hamilton because it's going to come into your city as well. This is what cities do. They look at what other cities are doing and they want to be able to incorporate that. And if you want to be on this show with Rachel, with Michael, having a conversation with me, telling your story, not only to the other landlords and property managers and even tenants out there, especially to our elected officials and media, I'm going to put our link in the chat so that you can have a request for our follow-up show. We do have a next show coming on next Friday at 7:00. We have 2 landlords already lined up. So we're going to see what crazy situations are happening because I could tell you right now, this one got me stumped. And it's starting to show that we have tenant scams happening. So make sure you are tuning in next Friday on the Ontario Landlords Watch YouTube channel, my personal page on Facebook, or Ontario Landlords Watch Facebook page as well. And thank you for subscribing and keeping me motivated to keep advocating for landlords and property managers and our good tenants. Our good tenants. And remember, guys, you can report your tenants' good payment history to Front Lobby so landlords know who is responsible and who needs to give them a home faster than anybody else. So make sure you're reporting your good tenants as well, because right now our landlords, they're ready to jump ship. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Share this video with your MPP and your city councilors, it seems like, because, hey, they don't have enough work to do. They want to start doing the province's job. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And until next Friday, happy renting.